हेलो हेलो हेलो।
Hello, and welcome to this discussion on current affairs for this 2020 exam. And in today's discussion, I would like to concentrate on more of the economic related topics, because that is something which is very important, and so many questions in every preliminary exam, especially when it comes to economics. A lot of questions are related to current affairs. So that is why my focus will be on economic related topics today. So whatever I am able to complete today, I will be completing, and if some of them are still left, I will be continuing in the next class also. So the first topic I would like to discuss today is the concept of core investment companies. See, there was a term, core investment companies. So, in fact, Reserve Bank of India last year in 2019 constituted a working group to review the regulatory guidelines and the supervisory framework applicable to core investment companies. So, core investment companies are CICs, and RBI has constituted a working group to review, and the experts were in fact, this need has come because of the IL and FS tragedy. IL and FS, or the Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Service Limited, and the because of the problems in that, this need was come. So IL and FS is a good example of a core investment company. In fact, if you look at the background of this kind of core investment companies, in August 2010, in August 2010, the Reserve Bank of India had introduced a separate framework for the regulatory or regulation of the systematically or systemically important core investment company. So, Reserve Bank of India came up with the concept of systemically important CICs, core investment companies. So, these are specialized. What are these core investment companies? These are specialized non-banking financial corporations. Specialized NBFCs, non-banking financial corporations. They have an asset size of at least 100 crore, minimum 100 crore asset size. So, that is the requirement. Then the main business of this CIC is acquisition of shares and securities with certain conditions. So, main business is acquisition of shares and securities. So, the main business of core investment companies is acquisition of shares and securities with certain conditions, and it holds not less than 90% of its net asset in the form of investment in equity. So, the core investment company means more than 90% of its net assets, should be in the form of investment in equity, in the investment in equity, should be in the form of investment in equity, shares, preference shares, bonds, etc. Equity, shares, preference shares, bonds, then debts, loans in the group companies, etc. So, but please remember, it will not. See, CIC, core investment companies, will not trade in its investment in shares, bond. No trading in the, especially in the group companies, and it does not carry on any other financial activity except investment in bank deposit, money market instruments, etc. So basically, it's an investment company, a core investment company, and it can accept public funds. No, so 90% of its net assets are in investment in equity, share, preference shares, bonds, loans, etc. And it can accept, very important point, it can accept public funds. It can accept public funds. And if you look at the total number of core investment companies in India as on August 2019, there were 63 as on August 2019. There are 63 core investment companies registered with RBI, and it's substantial, almost 2,63,000 crore rupee. I mean, net, it doesn't matter. Some of the famous ones, Aditya Birla Financial Service Limited. Okay, one example, some examples I would like to give. Aditya Birla Financial Services Limited. Okay, Aditya Birla Financial Services Limited. GMR, the when airport, come in Delhi airport is under GMR Airports Limited, or Godrej Investment Private Limited, L&T Finance Holding Limited, Tata Industries Limited, Tata Sons Limited. Like that, there are 63 core investment companies in India. And the main reason why this a working group was set up, it is because of the IL and FS fiasco and the the problems in that company. It's a core investment company, and the working group were asked to examine the current regulatory framework of the core investment companies in terms of adequacy, efficacy, effectiveness of every component thereof, and suggest changes if required, to suggest measures to strengthen the corporate governance, and the disclosure requirements of the CICs. So that is why this working group was set up, and working group gave the report also. The working group was headed by Tapan Ray. It is headed by Tapan Ray, and it submitted its report also. So that is why the name core investment companies were in news. And as I told you, these are investment companies. Their main focus will be to invest, and it is not trading. So it does not trade in the investment. So its main focus is on it not less than 90% of its net assets in the form of investment in equity, share, preference shares, bonds, debentures, debts, loans in the group companies, etc. And that is how the core investment company name was in news. Tapan Ray led committee looked into the matter, and they suggested various measures. Okay, so that is about the core investment companies. So that's the first topic. Now coming to the let me talk about the second topic. The second topic is about the concept of that BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting. Base and profit shifting. See, why was it in news? It was in news because recently, last year, in fact, the central government announced that it has ratified the international agreement to curb base erosion and profit shifting. So India has become a party to this agreement, base erosion and profit shifting. So it has been done in a bit. Why? What do you mean by this? To stop companies, multinational companies especially, from moving their profit out of a country and depriving the government of tax revenue. So in a particular country, if the tax is more, what they do is that they will shift the profit to another company. They will show that the profit is coming from another country. They will shift the profit to another country, and there they will disclose the profit. And if the tax there in that company is less, sorry, in that country is less, they can save the taxation. Okay, so this is what you call the base erosion. Okay, the base erosion and profit shifting. This is a bit to the idea behind this ratification of this agreement is to stop the companies from moving their profit from one country to another, the other country where the tax is less. So, BEPS is a tax avoidance strategy. So, what is BEPS? BEPS is a tax avoidance strategy. BEPS is a tax avoidance strategy used by the multinational companies by exploiting the gaps and mismatch in the tax rules in different countries, the gaps and mismatch in the tax rules in the different countries, and by artificially shifting profit to low or no tax locations, by artificially shifting profit to low or no tax countries, by artificially shifting profit to low or no tax countries or locations. So, in order to stop this, many countries entered in an agreement to share tax information with each other. So, because this has become a rampant problem, so many countries have joined together to share tax information with each other to enhance transparency and make such shift of profit much difficult and harder. So, many countries have joined together. So, the profits are shifted from the jurisdiction that having high tax. So, what are they doing? They are shifting the profits. Profits are shifted from jurisdictions having higher tax to those jurisdictions having lower tax, so that they can save the tax. So, a BEPS action plan was adopted by OECD and G20 countries in 2013. Please remember, a BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting action plan, BEPS action plan was adopted by OECD countries and G20 countries and other like-minded countries in 2013. This is adopted in 2013 because we need to do something and increase transparency. And this convention, India has ratified this convention called Multilateral Convention to Implement Tax Treaty Related Measures. Multilateral Convention to implement Multilateral Convention to implement tax treaty related measures. Treaty related Multilateral Convention to implement tax treaty related measures to prevent base erosion and profit shifting. To prevent BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting. And this is also known as the MLI or multilateral instrument. This is a multilateral convention to implement tax treaty related measures to prevent BEPS. And in fact, India signed this treaty in Paris in June 2017. We signed, okay, we signed this treaty in June 2017. At that time, by the then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley at that time signed this treaty in 2017, and in 2019 we ratified it. So, along with 65 other countries, more than 65 other countries also participated in this multilateral convention to implement tax treaty related measures to prevent BEPS. So, MLI, this is called MLI, the multilateral instrument was signed in 2017, and this has been achieved because of the coordinated effort between G20 and OECD countries, and India actively participated in this to finally come up with this kind of a treaty to prevent multinational companies from shifting their tax or the profit to such countries where taxes are less. Now, if you look at the these kind of countries are known as the tax havens. These are known as the tax havens, and there are many types of tax havens, and one is a BEPS, that means the base erosion and the profit shifting, and in that haven, Ireland stands number one. That means when it comes to the profit taxation, Ireland has one of the least. Then the Caribbean countries like Cayman Islands and the British Virgin Islands, Caribbean Islands. One second, Caribbean Islands, like the Cayman Islands and the British Virgin Islands. The second when it comes to the second preferred country, then Singapore, Switzerland. Number 3 is Singapore. Number 4 is Switzerland. And number 5 is Netherlands. So, according to various experts, these are the 5 countries which are preferred. In fact, Ireland, the Caribbean islands like Cayman Islands and the British Virgin Islands, Singapore, Switzerland, Netherlands, and then Luxembourg. So, these are some of the countries where when multinational companies try to shift their profit to those countries, these countries like Ireland, Singapore, Switzerland, etc., so that they need to pay only lesser tax, lesser profit tax, where the tax on profit is much less there. That is why they would like to shift to such countries. And to prevent this, we have this, India has ratified this MLI, multilateral instrument, and on BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting agreement, India has signed now and ratified, signed in 2017 and we are ratified in 2019. The government has finally became a party to this agreement, so that we cooperate in what is that agreement? We will cooperate, increase the transparency regarding taxation and try to plug the gap in the taxation in various countries. That is what we are called, or more than 65 countries have joined together to ensure that the multinational companies are not able to shift their profit and fool around, or rather circumvent the rules and take advantage of the situation, take advantage of different laws and different percentage of taxes in various countries. So, that is BEPS. So, that is about the second topic. Now, coming to another topic. This is about the Financial Stability and Development Council. Now, I am expecting a question on this, that is why I am repeatedly, in various other classes also I mentioned this. So, Financial Stability and Development Council, FSDC, Financial Stability and Development Council, Financial Stability and Development Council. In fact, recently, even during the corona pandemic also, this Financial Stability and Development Council meeting was held through video conferencing, and this meeting is chaired by the Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, okay, chaired by Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. And it was in May 2020, and even during this COVID time, it has noted that this COVID-19 pandemic is posing a serious threat to the stability of the global financial system. So, this FSDC, the Financial Stability and Development Council, has noted that COVID-19 is posing a serious threat to the stability of the global financial system, since its impact and timing of recovery is really uncertain. And this Financial Stability and Development Council, FSDC, is a non-statutory body, is a non-statutory apex council under the Ministry of Finance. Please don't forget, this is a non-statutory, no law, non-statutory apex body. See, non-statutory means there is no law passed to create this body. We have constitutional bodies, we have statutory bodies. Statutory means through an act of the parliament. Say minorities commission is through an act of the parliament. Okay, any organization which is, or any arrangement which is set up through an act of the parliament, then it is a statutory body by law. But non-statutory means there is no, it's an executive body. Executive has created it. There is no law passed in the parliament related to this FSDC, Financial Stability and Development Council. It is under the Ministry of Finance. It was constituted by an executive order in 2010. It was constituted in 2010. Don't forget that during the previous Manmohan Singh government's time, it was constituted. It is proposed by Raghuram Rajan Committee of 2008 on financial sector reforms. It was proposed by Raghuram Rajan Committee in 2008. It is proposed in 2008, Raghuram Rajan Committee in 2008 on financial sector reforms, and it is chaired by, now this FSDC is chaired by the Finance Minister, and the members include all the financial sector regulators. Please remember, and this FSDC members include all the regulators, that means RBI chairperson, then SEBI, IRDA, and other then Finance Secretary, Secretary of Department of Economic Affairs, all major secretaries of Department of Financial Service, Chief Economic Advisor, then Minister of State for in the Department of Economic Affairs. Then one addition to all the finance ministries and finance regulators, there is one very important addition done recently, that is the Secretary of Department of Electronics and Information Technology. Secretary of Department of or Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology See, this is very important. Please note this. You may be missing out any, if 2, 3 options are given, you may not be thinking about this secretary. Why? Because these days we are talking so much about the electronic transfer of money and digitization of the economy, and electronic industry or electronic and Department of Electronics and Information Technology play a very crucial role in digitization of our economy. Money transfer, bank accounts, everywhere, the role of the electronics and information technology is increasing, and that is why the Secretary of Department of Electronics and Information Technology is also part of this FSDC, and also chairperson of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, IBB, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, IBBI. Please don't forget, this is the chairperson of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India is there, Revenue Secretary is there, and it can also invite other experts in the meeting if required. So, all the finance ministry related or finance related or heads will be there, plus Department of Electronics and Information Technology Secretary also. And what is the objective? What is the objective of this financial this particular Financial Stability and Development Council, FSDC? What are the objectives? FSDC, the Financial Stability and Development Council, its objective is number 1, to strengthen and institutionalize the mechanism for maintaining financial stability. To strengthen and institutionalize the mechanism for financial stability. Number 2, enhancing inter-regulatory coordination. Enhancing inter-regulatory coordination. Number 3, promotion of financial sector development. Promotion of financial sector development. And number 4, assess the functioning of the large financial conglomerates. Assess the functioning of large financial conglomerates. So, 4 major objectives: strengthen and institutionalize the mechanism for maintaining financial stability, enhancing interregulatory coordination, promoting financial sector development, and assess the functioning of large financial conglomerates. So, this meeting, the latest meeting was held in May 2020, and FSDC, this can be a question this year, something related to that. So, that is about the third topic I wanted to discuss. Now, coming to another topic. So, this is about the sovereign bond proposal. Now, in the budget, the finance minister talked about sovereign bonds to be issued in dollars. We will talk about that, the sovereign bond proposal. Now, it is on hold. Okay, sovereign bond proposal on hold. Prime Minister in July itself, after the budget, in July itself, Prime Minister said that we will be assessing it. So, what is the sovereign bond all about? What is a bond? If the issuer of a bond promises to pay back a fixed amount in a bond, the issuer promises, okay, the issuer promises to pay back a fixed amount of money every year, to pay back a fixed amount every year until the expiry of the term. If it is a 5-year bond or a 10-year bond, until the expiry of the term, and at which point, at that point, the issuer returns the principal amount also, and at the expiry of the term, the principal amount, at the expiry of the term, the principal amount also will be returned. The principal amount also will be returned. So, the idea is that when the bond is, the issuer of the bond promises, it is a promise. The bond promises certain amount, certain fixed amount to be paid back on an yearly basis, or the total amount will be paid, calculating on an interest rate, they will be calculating, and at the end of the term, the whole amount, the principal amount along with the promised money will be returned back to the person who invested it. Okay. So, the person who bought purchased the bond, he will be given back that much amount. So, then what is a sovereign bond? If a government issues such a bond, then it is called a sovereign bond. If the government issues such a bond, then it is sovereign bond. Very simple. If the government is issuing such a bond, if the government is promising somebody that I will pay you this much money, you invest in me, you give me this much, and the purchaser of the bond, he will be, the purchaser will, purchase this bond, and in return, they will give some money to the government, and the government says, I will pay you back after say 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, with this much interest, or a fixed amount will be guaranteed, and it has to be given back. And the more financially strong the country, if the country is financially very strong, the more well respected is the sovereign bond. If Americans come out with a sovereign bond, it is well respected. Why? Because people know that American government is promising, they have full guarantee, they will feel that it is assured. But when India offers, that much assurity may not be there. If Bangladesh offers, the assurity will be even less. If Burkina Faso or Somalia offers, there may not be any assurity at all. So, people may not be purchasing the bond. It depends upon who is issuing the bond. And some of the best known sovereign bonds are treasuries. It is called, the US bonds are known as the treasuries. Treasuries by USA, or the gilts by Britain. Gilts by Britain, aughts by France. The French acronym, HOTS by France, or bonds by Germany. In fact, the full name of bonds is Bundesland. Okay, BUNDES ANL EIHEN, Bundesland Lehen, or buns. That is why we call it as a short form is buns, otherwise Bundesland Lehen by Germany and JGB by Japan. JGB by Japan. So these are these are the sovereign bonds issued by various countries, especially the most famous of them. They can be denominated in both foreign and domestic currency, there is no problem. The yield of the sovereign bond, that is how much interest you can get, that is called the yield of the sovereign bond. The yield of the sovereign bond. This yield depends upon how much assurity you have. If the assurity is more, if it is from US and Japan and all, we 100% guaranteed. When the assurity is more, the interest rate will be less. If there is less assurity, the yield will be more. Volatile countries, volatile economies, and where there is high inflation rates, then normally the high interest return will be, the high yield will be there. So you are taking a risk, because if I am purchasing a bond of say Kenya or Namibia or such countries where the volatility of the economy is there, the inflation rate is high, no guarantee of getting back, so you may get more interest. So the yield of the bond depend upon the credit worthiness. Okay, credit worthiness, the risk, the country risk, which country we are taking, and the exchange rate. Okay, now what was the issue here? In the biggest issue in the when the India in the union budget, the union budget 2019, what was the issue? It proposed the funding of fiscal deficit partially by borrowing from international markets in foreign currency. Partially, the fiscal deficit will be partially funded by borrowing from international market, partially by borrowing from international market in foreign currency. The problem came in foreign currency because we have issued bonds earlier also, but that was in Indian rupee. So we will be promising, suppose just a crude example let me give. The crude example is, suppose you issue a bond of 10,000 rupees and promise the purchaser that after 5 years I will give you say 14,000 rupees. So even if it is offered outside the country, the what we are promising is, we are at today whatever be the exchange rate, suppose exchange rate in dollar, if the dollar $1 is equal to say 100 rupees, say 100 ज़्यादा बोल दिया, say 50 लिख लेता हूँ, if it is 50 rupees. So for 10,000, so how many dollars you have to pay? So you are saying my sovereign bond is of 10,000 rupee worth, so that much dollars you have to pay. So if it is $200 you pay and purchase this. But after 5 years, we are promising that, say after 5 years, we are promising that we will pay you 14,000. Say at the time the exchange rate $1 is equal to say 100 rupees. We are not bothered about what is the exchange rate. So the risk of the exchange rate is with the purchaser of the bond. So if you are issuing a bond, please understand, if you are issuing a bond in Indian rupee, then the risk of the exchange rate fluctuation, this is what we are saying, exchange rate has changed. The risk of exchange rate fluctuation is with the borrower or with the purchaser. whoever has purchased the bond, he has to take the risk. So now if it becomes 100 rupees, what will happen? 14,000. So you will get only 100 into and divide by 100, you will get just $140. You paid $200 today. Because of the exchange rate fluctuation, even though we gave more money, I gave 14,000 rupees. You see, at the time when you spent $200, India government got 10,000 rupees because the exchange rate is only 50. But after 5 years, exchange rate became 100 rupees for $1. So India got, the value got, India got devalued, the Indian rupee got devalued. We are promised 14,000 rupees only. That 14,000 rupees, when it is converted on that day, at the end of the bond, or the bond period is over, the fellow who purchased the bond, he got only 100. It's a loss for him. So the risk of exchange rate fluctuation is with the purchaser if we are issuing bonds in Indian rupee. So if the bonds are issued in Indian rupee, India has no risk. We have no risk of the exchange rate fluctuation. But if you are saying that we will issue bonds in dollars, the exchange rate fluctuation is with India. That is where the problem is. It's a high risk business of taking loan. See, now on an average, it is found that around 6 to 7% devaluation is going on in our country. Okay, the exchange rate is reducing, or rather Indian rupee becoming cheaper by 6 to 7% per year on an average, we have found. See, 1947, $1 and 1 rupee was almost same. Now it is $1 is equal to 75 rupees. Even last year, when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, after the end of the Manmohan Singh's rule in 2014, and when Prime Minister Modi came to power, the exchange rate was only around 60 or something. Now you see in the last 6 years, it has become 75. So that means there is a steep erosion in the value of the rupee. So when the value of the rupee goes down, and when Indian rupee becomes cheaper, the risk will be taken. I mean, if you are issuing bonds in dollars, then we will have to pay. Suppose if you are issuing bonds in dollar, what will you say? We will say for say 200 rupee, $200, we are purchasing a bond for 200. Suppose one bond is equal to $200. Now we are promising that after say 5 years, we will give $250. Suppose. That means we have to pay that much irrespective of the exchange rate. So the exchange rate, if you are issuing bonds in dollars and foreign currency, the exchange rate risk is with government of India. That is why there is a lot of criticism. And that is why, because of the criticism, the government decided, or rather to put on hold this idea, the proposal to issue bonds in dollar. So the biggest thing is, if the exchange rate changes, if that loan is in terms of dollars and the rupee weakens, rupee is weakening all through the history. The last 70 years we have seen rupee is constantly weakening. If the rupee is weakening, then against the dollar during the bond tenure, naturally during the bond tenure when it is weakened, the government will have to return more rupee. We will have to pay more amount to pay back the same amount in dollars. So the risk will be with the government. That is why even when I still remember when the Japan gave so much of loan for our bullet train project, when Japan promised it, the government was celebrating and showing as if it is it's a big achievement. It is only 1% interest or 0.1% interest and all it was said. But you have to pay back in yen itself. Okay, Japan has given suppose so many billion, 100 billion yen. Japan is asking after 50 years with 0.1% or 0.2% interest. Whatever with the interest it was said, I forgot that exact amount. But you have to pay back in yen. And Japan's currency is one of the most stable currencies in the world. It will not get devalued that easily. There is no erosion of value for yen. Indian rupee vis-a-vis with respect to yen, it is eroding. So even though the interest rate looks very small, when you get loan in dollar terms or in yen terms, the problem is Indian rupee getting eroding its value. When the Indian rupee gets weakened, If you have to pay more Indian rupees to get $1, then the sovereign bonds in foreign currency can be very dangerous. That is why the government has put on hold this particular suggestion, and now we are not hearing anything about that. That was in last year in the budget it was said, and subsequently it was put on hold. So, sovereign bonds in foreign currency can be really a double-edged sword. It may look like initially it may look like profitable because the percentage is less, the interest rate is less, the yield is less, but the exchange rate can be the real killing factor here, and that is why sense I will say the common sense prevailed, and the Prime Minister interfered and stopped the Finance Ministry's idea of taking or issuing sovereign bonds in foreign currency. So, that is about the sovereign bond in foreign currency. So, this was in news a controversial step, and finally, it has been put on hold. So, that is about this topic. Now, coming to another small topic, that is anti-dumping duty on PTA. Anti-dumping duty on PTA. So, what is anti-dumping and what is PTA? PTA is a purified terephthalic acid. Purified terephthalic acid. Purified terephthalic acid or PTA. So, Union Finance Ministry, and it is a PTA import from South Korea, Thailand, etc. From South Korea, Thailand, etc. And the Union Finance Ministry has imposed. Please note, who can impose anti-dumping duty? Union Finance Ministry. Finance Ministry imposed this anti-dumping duty, and it is an organic compound. Terephthalic acid is an organic compound. The formula is C6H4CO2H CO2H twice. C6H4 CO2H twice. Okay. So, anyway, and this is a white solid, and it is a commodity chemical. It is a chemical used principally in the polyester PET used to make clothing, plastic bottles, the PET bottles, PET bottles. The common name is derived from the turpentine producing tree called Pistachia terebinthus. Okay, it is Pistachia terebinthus from a tree, and phthalic acid and PH phthalic acid. So, from this name has come, that is called the PTA, purified terephthalic acid, and it is also used in clothing, as I told, making the clothing, plastic bottles, and it is a raw material, a polyester chips, and a number of applications, textile, packaging, furnishing, consumer goods, resin, coating, etc. Okay. So, it is a poorly soluble in water and alcohol. Terephthalic acid is poorly soluble, poorly soluble in water and in acids. So, that is about the terephthalic acid. So, anti-dumping. So, what is anti-dumping? Anti-dumping duty is a trade levy or a tax imposed by any government on imported products. It is a levy imposed by any government on imported products. On imported products which have prices less than their fair normal value in the domestic market. Products which have prices which are prices lower than, less than their fair normal value, prices less than fair normal value in domestic market. So, wherever it is imported, see now in India, I am just giving again a crude example. If X has X product has generally a value of 100 rupees, it is a fair normal value in India. Now, if we are importing the same thing from outside, say from Pakistan or China, and if China is able to sell the same X in 50 rupees, much below the even the the manufacturing price in India, then an anti-dumping duty can be imposed by Government of India to take these rates at par with the domestic fair value. So, that is the meaning. So, it is a protectionist tariff that seeks to stop dumping process where companies export a product at a price lower than the price it normally charge in domestic market of the importing. So, when India is importing it, if the imported value is much lower than the domestic value, the Government of India can charge anti-dumping duties on this particular product to make it to give a level playing field for the local manufacturers also. This is to give a level playing field for the local manufacturer. So, anti-dumping duty is is imposed under the WTO. Okay, so who is giving or what is the permission? The WTO, under WTO, anti-dumping duties can be imposed, and India anti-dumping duty is recommended by Union Ministry of Commerce. So, anti-dumping duty, please note, it is recommended by the Commerce Ministry, and it is imposed by Union Finance Ministry, recommended by Commerce Ministry, and imposed by Union Finance Ministry. It is imposed by the Union Finance Ministry, and there is also a provision called in a sunset review or sunset clause is there. Anti-dumping duty is valid for a period of 5 years. Normally, this duty can be imposed for 5 years from the date of imposition unless revoked earlier. A sunset or an expiry review must be initiated. A sunset review or an expiry review. Sunset review or an expiry review should be initiated before terminating of the anti-dumping duty to determine whether the expiry of the duty would be likely to lead to continuation or recurrence of the dumping and injury and all. So, a sunset review should be there by each country after expiry of this anti-dumping duty. So, that is how it is there. So, from South Korea, Thailand, etc., we were importing this terephthalic acid, and that is where this demand has come. So, you can see the purified terephthalic acid, terephthalic acid, which is imported from South Korea, Thailand, etc., and that is how this has been imposed. So, that is about the anti-dumping duty on PTA or purified terephthalic acid. Okay. So, coming to another topic. So, let me talk about the negative rate policies. So, this is about the negative rate policies. See, it is considered to be only in economies where chronically low inflation such as Europe and Japan. Now, it is becoming more attractive for many other countries also. Under this negative rate policy, what do you mean by negative rate policy? The financial institution, especially the central bank, are required to pay interest for parking. The financial institutions are required to pay interest for parking excess reserve with the central bank. Pay interest for parking excess reserve with central bank. So, if the banks and the financial institutions want to park some money with RBI, rather than RBI giving an interest for that money which is deposited with RBI, you will have to pay some extra money. You have to pay for keeping money. Suppose instead of getting an interest rate, suppose you deposit money in the bank will give you 5%, 4% saving account, or a fixed account maybe 7%, 8% you will get. But instead of you getting some money as interest, if the bank cuts some money from you, suppose you deposit say 1000 rupees in the bank and you expect after 1 year I say 10% interest. So, 10% means you expect this to increase to 1100 rupees, quite logical in India. But imagine a scenario, you deposited 1000 rupees in the bank and at the end of that, at end of 1 year, you are told that there are only 990 rupees in the bank, 10 rupee the bank has charged for keeping your money with them, for safe custody of your money, the bank charges say 0.1% of the money. So, that can be really horrible. So, that is what exactly we are talking about, the negative rate. So, if you park money, if the financial institutions are parking money with the central bank, they are required to pay an interest for parking that excess reserve with the central bank. So, this is the negative interest rate, that is why it is called negative rate policy. In fact, this negative rate policy was started by European Central Bank, ECB, European Central Bank, introduced negative rate in June 2014. In June 2014, they started at the deposit rate of minus 0.1%. They charged minus 0.1%. This was to ensure that the banks, the financial institutions are not parking money with the central bank. Instead, they are giving this money, giving loan, so that it can stimulate the economy. The idea is, if you don't get anything by parking money with the central bank, you will disburse it, you may give loan. So, it will stimulate, it can help in stimulate the economy. It can help in stimulating the economy. And over a period of time, the ECB continued with they continued to cut the deposit rate, and in 2019, it became minus 0.4%. ECB in 2019, the rate has come down to minus 0.4, minus 0.4%. Similarly, Bank of Japan also adopted this in 2016. Bank of Japan adopted negative policy in 2016. They also started charging minus 0.1% for parking any money. So, what are the advantages or disadvantages? Because definitely, if lowering, so the borrowing cost will be lowered. It also, if the negative rates will help weaken the country's currency rate. If there is, it will help weakening the currency of the country. Okay. Now, you may be saying, if currency rate, especially the country's currency rate, okay, it will help weakening the currency rate. One second. So, one second, it will help weakening the currency rate of the country. Help weakening the currency rate of the country, and it become, because when we have a negative rate and all, what will happen? This currency will become less attractive for investment than other currency, less attractive. A weaker currency, please remember, gives a country's export a competitive advantage. A weaker currency helps in giving advantage to export. See, very simple. See, why? Because suppose Indian rupee, just for again clarification, say $1 is equal to say 50 rupees. Suppose now you want to export a shirt of 1000 rupees. So the cost is 1000 rupee, and for that you are getting say $20. Right now the exchange rate is $1 is equal to 50 rupees. $20 you will get. Suppose the rupee got weakened and say $1 is equal to 60 rupees. So when you when you sell this same product in international market for $20, you are getting 1000 rupees here and you are making profit out of it. But after some time when the rupee got weakened, you are getting the same $20. But that's $20 when it's converted, it is becoming 1200 rupees. So a manufacturer will suddenly get more profit when the rupee got weakened. That is why it will promote export. A weaker currency gives a country's export a competitive advantage. So a negative rate and a weaker currency helps in increasing the export. Similarly, but the negative rate put downward pressure on the entire yield. That means when when the borrowing will become cheaper, the yield, the interest rate also become very narrow, very less. The net profit out of the currency, or rather net the pressure on when we give some loan, the yield will become very less and narrow the margin of the finance. So the other side, the negative side is, so it can help in increasing the export, it's okay, at a weaker currency, but the other side is it will narrow the margin of the financial institution. It will narrow the margin of the financial institutions. The margin means the profit of the financial institutions will be, and whatever they can get by lending or other institutions which they earn from lending, it will that margin will come down dramatically, and if prolonged ultra low rates are there, it can ultimately lead to hurting the health of the financial institution also. And also it can damage the economy in the long run. And another problem is, if you are to pay something to the bank, more and more people will refuse to deposit money in the bank. And if you are getting negative and if you have to lose money, the depositors will avoid being to avoid charges, negative charges on their bank deposit. They may hold physical cash instead. So this can create more cash in the market and all. So there can be many such issues. So please remember, this negative side is in extremely low inflation countries, European Union, Japan and all, and they are talking about negative rates. And please remember your repo rate and reverse repo rate. Repo rate. What is repo rate? Is the rate at which the central bank of a country lends money to the commercial bank. So RBI gives to banks, and reverse repo, that is the money the RBI will pay. So the reverse repo, the interest rate at which the RBI borrows, or if you park money with RBI, what RBI will give, that is the reverse repo rate. Please remember, after the COVID and the economic package which is given, the repo rate and the reverse repo rate both were reduced substantially in May 2020. Just for your understanding, repo rate has been brought down to around 4%, and from 4.4 it is reduced to 4%, and if you have to borrow money from RBI, it is only 4%, and if you park money with RBI, it has been reverse repo rate has been reduced to I think 3.35%. The reverse repo rate, it has been reduced to 3.35%. That means if you park money with RBI, you will get only 3.35% interest. And if you give to the public, the logic was that, and this will encourage banks to lend more money to the needy or to the corporates. and the people who wants money so that they can earn more money. But banks are not willing to lend because of the prevailing uncertainties in the economy and the problems in the economy, and not many takers, and even banks are trying to averse their risk. They are risk averse. They don't want to take risk to give money or lend money to the needy or the people who are interested or in taking money because of the fear about the economy. So, reverse repo rate has been reduced substantially, just 3.35%, and it may reduce further also, and they have kept it so low so that banks should not park money with RBI. That is their idea. And if they park money, they are not going, they are getting only 3.35% interest. That is too less, and most of the deposit rates are much higher. So, what will happen? The banks will be forced to lend this money to somebody, to MSMEs or the persons who are interested in taking the loan. But even then, banks are not willing to pay or rather lend this money because of the uncertainties in the economy. So, anyway, so when the reverse repo rate is reducing and reduced to 3.35, many people are talking about the negative rate, okay, the way it is there in the European Union, in Japan and all. That is why I talked about this particular topic, the negative rate, okay. So, we were talking about the negative rates in some of the countries in the world, the negative rate policy. So, of course, India is nowhere near that. The reverse repo is only 3.35% right now. Long way to go to reach negative and all. For that, an ultra low inflation in the economy should be there. The inflationary trend should be very, very less. And even now, with this 3.35% also, there is an upward trend in the inflation. So, naturally, RBI is not reducing further right now. So that is about it. Now, coming to another topic. So, let me come to another topic, that is about the forex reserves in India. So much of news these days, forex reserves. So, the seventh topic I am talking right now, reserves in India. Foreign exchange reserve. See, India's total forex reserve has crossed $500 billion, and on 31st of July 2020, RBI has announced that our total forex reserve has reached $534 billion or crossed $534 billion in 31st of July 2020, the highest ever. And as we have four components, don't forget that the foreign exchange asset in dollars and other foreign exchange, the forex asset almost $490 billion, forex assets $490 billion. Then we have gold reserve $37.6 billion, gold $37.6 billion. Then SDR, the special drawing rights, we have $1.475 billion, $1.475 billion of SDR, and the reserve tranche, the reserve position, reserve tranche position with IMF is $4.639 billion. 4.639, added up all these things, it is coming to 534.568, $534.568 billion, 534.568. So, please see, foreign exchange asset of $490 billion, gold $37.6 billion, SDR $1.475 billion, and the reserve tranche position with IMF $4.639 billion. So, that is it. That is the foreign exchange reserve. We have zoomed past the 500 billion mark, and in fact, that is predominant. Why this foreign exchange reserve is increasing? And one fundamental reason is there is almost a collapse of our import. There is very suddenly, because of the global economic downturn and because of the problems in the Indian economy also, because of the lockdown and things like that, the import has collapsed. Export has also reduced. See, if the export has reduced by 10%, I mean, give a crude example, 10% reduction, but the import has reduced by almost 30%. Import has reduced by almost 30% reduction. So, because of this sudden reduction in the import, I mean massive reduction in the import and some reduction in the export, ultimately we require less money for import. So, there the foreign exchange reserve started increasing. So, in fact, even the economic survey, I mean our economic survey in 2014-15 and all, I still remember in 2014-15, the economic survey, it was mentioned that India should target a foreign exchange reserve of around $750 billion. Forex reserve of $750 billion. That was the target which was talked about at that time. And we are moving in that direction. And in June 2020, I already said we have crossed the 500 billion mark. And China has the highest. Don't forget, around the 3.2 trillion dollars. $3.2 trillion or $3,200 billion as far as the foreign exchange reserve of China is concerned. Okay, so that is the highest. And reserve tranche, please remember, it is the position, it's a portion of the required quota of currency each member country must provide to the IMF. That can be utilized for its own purpose. It is for our own purpose only. A reserve tranche is a portion of the required quota of currency of each member country to be provided to the IMF that can be utilized by us. So, that is the meaning of a reserve tranche. And special drawing rights, we know SDR is an international reserve asset created by IMF in 1969. IMF created in 1969 to supplement its member countries' official reserve. So, I mean, you please look into that, and I am not getting into the details of that. So, we have 4 types of reserve: the forex, the foreign exchange, the currency, the dollar, sorry, the gold, then SDR and reserve tranche. So, please remember these 4 put together is the total foreign exchange reserve of the country. And if you do not have that full idea about what is reserve tranche or SDR, please study that. These are important for the exam. So, please make sure that you are having enough information in this, because it can be asked in the exam anytime. Then coming to the the current account and the balance of payment. Balance of payment 2019-20. So, in fact, it has been found that for the first time since financial year 2004, since 2004, the economy is set to close the current fiscal, or rather that is 2019-20, with a current account surplus of around 0.4% of the GDP. A current account surplus of around 0.4%, and this is mainly because of the the falling import and the crude prices, and also it's not because of the better exports. See, normally a current account or rather a trade deficit, we always talk about the trade deficit. We try to plug the trade deficit by increasing export and decreasing import. Okay, our trade deficit is export minus import. So, we want to increase the export and reduce the import. That is what we normally do. But in this case, this year, what has happened is nothing to celebrate. Okay, even though our minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, is celebrating and is trying to tell the people that it's a big thing. We are a strong current account and all. See, these are nonsense. This is how the political class try to use this data to tell the data to suit their convenience. The reality is the export has reduced, import has collapsed. Because of that reason, we have surplus money. So, we have, why import has collapsed? Because the domestic consumption, the consumption has literally vanished. People stopped buying things. There is no money, or people are afraid of buying something because of the uncertainty about the COVID and the economic situation in the country right now after the lockdown and things like that. So, when people stopped consuming or people refuse to spend money, so there is a sudden I will say collapse of the demand. Because of the collapse of the demand, even import has reduced. When import has reduced and export also reduced, but import has reduced much faster than a reduction in the export. So, there is a surplus. So, that surplus is not something which we should be very happy about. So, the weak domestic demand and the lower crude oil price, it has led to a collapse of the import, and it is not because of the export recovery or anything. There is no recovery in export. I already told you, if export has reduced by 10%, import has reduced by much faster, and it has almost 30%. So, because of that, there is a surplus, and that is a current account surplus we are talking. Just to have the data, what is published by RBI. So, according to RBI in 2019-20, now let me talk about the 19-20 data a bit. The imports are for approximately $467 billion. Imports are for $467 billion in 2019-20. Exports, again, the import has declined by 9%. Okay, compared to the previous year, declined by 9.4 to 9.12%. Okay, 9%. Import has declined by 9%, whereas export, now coming to export also declined to $314 billion. It is again declined by 4.7%. Declined by 4.7%. But the last month, the month of March and all, the decline is much steeper. That is where I said export declined by almost 10% and import declined by almost 30%. So, both import and export declined, and finally, the trade deficit. So, the export minus import, this is the 467 and 314. The trade deficit has come down to around 155 or something, trade deficit is equal to around $157 billion. The trade deficit I am talking, and which is much lower than $180 billion in 1819. So, $157 billion in 2019-20, which is much lower than $180 billion in 2018-19. So, the trade deficit has come down by more than 30 or $33 billion. Then also the entire fiscal, the current account deficit. Okay, now we are talking about current account deficit. Current account deficit includes the trade deficit as well as trade and the invisibles. Okay, so the current account deficit has narrowed to 0.9%. The current account deficit narrowed to 0.9% of GDP, which was almost 2.1% of GDP, which was 2.1% of GDP in 2018-19. So, the current account deficit narrowed substantially. Why? Because of the gap in the trade deficit reduced, and also because of the increased remittance and other things. We will be coming to that. And the net invisible receipts were higher. That invisible receipts, that is the invisibles which I talked about, due to the net services and other things. So, please remember this current account deficit has narrowed to 0.9%. One, because of the reduction in the trade deficit plus increase in the invisibles, especially the remittance and all. Then also, when it comes to the foreign direct investment, the FDI, coming to FDI during 1920 time, FDI, foreign direct investment, the net inflow was $43 billion in 1920, $43 billion in 2019-20. which is much lower than, I will say, but slightly higher than 18-19, but otherwise we used to have 50-60 billion dollars, but okay, in in 2018-19 it was 30 billion dollars in 2018-19. So foreign direct investment, there is an increase. So more money, the net foreign direct investment in India is 43 billion dollars compared to 30 billion dollars or 30.7 billion dollars in 18-19, and also the FII, the portfolio investment or the financial institutional investors, that has the net has increased, increased by 1.4 billion. So net is 1.4 billion dollars compared to an outflow. The net inflow is an outflow minus 2.4 billion dollars in 2018-19. So in 2018-19, the institutional investors, FIIs, the portfolio investment was positive, net a positive inflow of 1.4, but last year it was an outflow of 2.4. That way it was again better. So overall, in 1920, if you look at the net foreign exchange reserve, forex reserve, 2019-20, net forex reserve has increased. There was a accretion of $59.5 billion, a positive BOP, okay, $59.5 billion of net accretion, net addition, positive. We have added $59.5 billion of BOP basis, and this overall balance of payment 59 compared to a deficit of $3.3 billion in 2018-19, it was minus 3.3, a deficit. When minus plus mein confuse mat karna, I am only saying it is deficit, because this minus and plus can be a bit confusing. I am not using minus and plus. In 2018-19, there is a net deficit of $3.3 billion in the forex reserve, and now in 2019-20, there is an accretion, an addition of $59.5 billion because the current account plus capital account. That is where we are talking about the net, the what you call the adjustments made to the corrections and everything put together. There is a net accretion of addition of 59.5 billion dollars in 2019-20 compared to a net deficit or reduction of $3.3 billion in 18-19. So that is the situation as far as the forex reserves are concerned. And please remember, remittance during this period, around $76 billion of remittance was there. The invisible, the remittance of $76 billion was there. India is the highest remittance in the world. But now, next year, because of the corona pandemic and all, according to experts, the remittance will reduce by at least 25%. Okay, we should be ready for a reduction in the remittance by at least 25% according to experts. And also the fall in the, because please remember, 62% of the remittance are coming from the Gulf countries, the Gulf Cooperation Council. Another point I would like to add is 62% of remittance is from GCC countries, and their main income is from the crude oil prices, and there is a sudden drastic reduction in the crude oil prices right now. And it is found that for every 10% fall in the crude oil price, 10% fall in crude oil price, there is a reduction of 7% reduction in the remittance in the long run. There is a 7% reduction in remittance in the long run. There is a 7% reduction in the remittance in the long run. So it is going to substantially affect, and also even a weak US economic outlook, it will definitely affect the employment there, the income of the migrants and everything if you put together, again remittance will be severely affected. So, many experts are calculating that in the year 2020-21, the remittance may come down to 55 to 60 billion dollars from what was around 76 billion dollars this year. So, we are going to have a great hit and it is going to affect our Indian economy, the Kerala economy, because a lot of remittance comes from the Gulf countries or from where the people from Kerala are working there. So, this is going to affect our economy in a big way in the coming years. This is the side effects of the corona and the economic downturn which is happening. Of course, the current account surplus and this time a forex reserve jump has been taken place, but that is not something which we can celebrate beyond a point. Please remember, the export has reduced substantially. Now, we are talking about reducing the export by almost 10%, 12% in the reduction in the export. But most importantly, there is a collapse of the import. Even the non-oil and non-gold products, collapse of the import, which is all the more worrying, because that clearly shows there is a reduction in demand. There is a sudden stoppage, the demand has stopped, which is not a happy thing. It is a worrying sign. So, if our current account deficit is in narrowing, and if the trade deficit is narrowing the way it is narrowing, it is a worrying factor. Worry because our import has collapsed or import has stopped, consumption has stopped. So, contrary to what our minister is trying to project, the reality is something else. See, even if the current account deficit is slightly wide, if you are able to import more, that means there is demand, there is consumption in India, and we have more than $500 billion foreign exchange reserve. So, even if our current account deficit widens a bit, there is no problem. It is the trade deficit, even if it widens, there is no problem, because this is something which we can adjust, we can easily manage because of our large forex reserve. But if our import is collapsing, export is also reducing, and in the process, if the overall current account deficit is reducing, we need not celebrate, and if we are celebrating, we are celebrating on wrong things. And but the government and the executives always have this habit of confusing the people, giving wrong, interpreting the data wrongly, and project as if things are very nice. It is very easy for a politician to do that, but the hardcore economists know that this is not something which we can celebrate. Anyway, so that's about the forex reserve, that's about the current account deficit which we are talking. But again, please look into the BOP, balance of payment. You talk about the current account, then the trade balance, then the invisibles. Please see that. Then the capital account, you must know the differences and the calculation, and the balance of payment, how is it calculated. The latest figures I have given, but if you have some lack of clarity, please revise this topic also. It is very important for the exam. Okay. So, that is about this. Now, let us move into another topic, the ninth topic today I would like to discuss. So, my next topic is the T.N. Manoharan task force, a small topic. T.N. Manoharan task force. This Manoharan task force on secondary market for corporate loans. Secondary market for corporate loans. It has already submitted a report to RBI. RBI has set up a 6-member task force on secondary market for corporate loans, and it is headed by the Canara Bank chairperson T.N. Manoharan, and they already submitted a report to the RBI. So, it talked about a self-regulatory body, creating a self-regulatory body, a central loan registry should be set up, and it also talked about various aspects of boosting the secondary market. Now, my question is, or what we should know, we need not know much about the whole thing, but what we should know is, what do you mean by secondary market for corporate loan? What is the meaning of secondary market for corporate loan? That is what is very important for us. And T.N. Manoharan task force was there and they submitted the report, and what was said in the report and all, I don't think that is going to be asked for us. What is important is what is secondary. The secondary loan market in India is a very restricted or largely restricted to sale of loan to asset reconstruction companies. Right now it is restricted to sale of loans, restricted to sale of loans to asset reconstruction companies. Right now it is restricted to that, and there is no formalized mechanism for deepening this market. So, the secondary market is a market where investors buy and sell securities they already own. So, what is the secondary market? The secondary market is the market where investors buy and sell securities they already own. So, a vibrant, deep and liquid secondary market for debt would go a long way in increasing the efficiency of the debt market in general and would aid in the resolution of the stressed asset and all. So, if a bank, if a loan is given to a particular company or anything, how it can be traded, that is what, how it can be transferred, that is the secondary market we are talking. So, a well developed secondary market for debt would aid in transparent price discovery of the inherent riskiness of the debt being traded also. So, the debt will be traded, that is what we are talking about. So, the secondary market for loan can also be an important mechanism for credit intermediaries to manage credit risk and liquidity risk on their balance sheet. Okay. So, there are especially on the stressed assets. So, basically we are talking about there should be a corporate loan should be traded. There should be a mechanism whereby the banks will be able to sell or rather transfer these assets or rather these loans from one company to or the corporate loan should be transferred from one bank to another and all. It should be traded in the market. That is the idea behind the secondary market for corporate loan. But in India, it is not a well developed market. That is why our T.N. Manoharan committee task force was appointed by RBI and they have already given the report. Nothing beyond this. I don't think you require much in-depth understanding or anything. This, if you know what is the whole thing, I think that will be sufficient. Now, coming to another topic, a 10th topic today, which I am doing, liberalized remittance scheme. That is very important. Liberalized remittance scheme. So, according to now resident Indians can remit more money abroad. So, the idea is resident Indians can remit more money abroad. So, this liberalized remittance scheme by the Reserve Bank of India allows resident individuals, Indians, to remit a certain amount of money during a financial year to another country. So, Indians can transfer or remit money to a foreign country. You can remit money to a foreign country and for investment and other expenditure. So, this scheme by RBI was started in 2004, the remittance scheme where Indians can take out money from India and invest or spend money outside was started in 2004. The remittance scheme was started by RBI in the year 2004 according to the prevailing regulation. Now, these individuals can remit up to $2,50,000 per annum. It can remit $2,50,000 per financial year. Per year, we can remit. This money can be used to pay expenses related to traveling. You can go for vacation, you can go for traveling, medical treatment, studying, gifts, donations, maintenance of close relatives and so on. We can use it for any of this purpose, and this amount can also be invested in shares, debt instruments, and can be used to buy immovable property in the overseas market. You can buy immovable property in the overseas market up to $2,50,000 per annum. Individuals can also open and maintain foreign currency accounts with banks outside India for carrying out this transaction. So, they can open and maintain and hold foreign currency accounts with banks outside India for carrying out this transaction. But however, this liberalized remittance scheme is restricting buying and selling a foreign exchange abroad or purchasing a lottery tickets, etc. I mean, certain things have been stopped. Otherwise, you can do anything with this money. You can travel, you can use for medical treatment, you can use for education, you can purchase some movable, immovable property there, $2,50,000. And you just see 2,50,000 into say even 70. So, that has become a huge amount, okay, in lakhs of rupees, 70 times into 2,50,000. So, we are talking about almost a couple of crores of rupees we can transmit on a yearly basis. But but the scheme is not available to corporations, partnership firms, Hindu undivided family trusts, etc. That is only concession. So, you can make make remittance directly or indirectly to the countries identified by the, but only thing is that financial action task force and all, there we may not be able to do, but otherwise $2,50,000 per annum we can remit for our. So, that is becoming, we are moving towards that capital account convertibility. Okay. So, that is where things are moving. So, anyway, $2,50,000 per annum, that is a that is a liberalized remittance scheme. Okay. Now, coming to the Finance Commission. Now, another topic, an 11th topic I would like to talk about. So, one second, let me talk about the 15th Finance Commission. And we can expect some questions related to 15th Finance Commission this year, because it has already submitted one report, the other report is yet to be there. And one big thing happened was that in 2019, the government added or amended the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission. In 2019, the government amended the terms of reference. It amended the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission. Okay, terms of reference has been amended. That was in July 2019. So, it proposed to ensure an assured allocation of resource. So, what are the terms of reference? The government wanted an assured allocation of resources towards defense and internal security imperatives, towards defense and internal security. So, the terms of reference has been added is an assured allocation of resources. A Finance Commission should give an assured allocation of resources toward defense and internal security requirements. And please remember, Finance Commission under Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, Finance Commission is to be constituted, is appointed on expiry of every 5 years or earlier. Finance Commission by the President of India, and it focuses on the division of revenue between the center and the states, and the distribution between the states also, how to distribute within the states, how to distribute between center and the states, and then also the horizontal distribution between the states to ensure regional equity. So, it is a finance commission, and three things are there, the responsibilities of the finance commission. Three things are there. Number one, the distribution between union and the states. Union and the states, the distribution of the tax, the net proceeds of tax, the net proceeds of tax between the center and the states and between the states. Then also, it has to determine the quantum of grants in aid under Article 275. The quantum of grants in aid under Article 275. The quantum of grants in aid under Article 275 has to be determined by the Finance Commission, and also the measures needed to augment the consolidated fund of the state. The third is augment the consolidated fund of the state to supplement the resources for the panchayats and the municipalities and all. So, that is a broad thing, and fourth, I mean, you have added a terms of reference which is added this time, that was related to spending or internal security and the defense forces that have been added in 2019, and the 15th Finance Commission was appointed by the President of India, and it was headed by Sri N.K. Singh. Please do not forget, it is headed by N.K. Singh. And the commission is supposed to make the what you call report available by October 2019, and it will commence from 1st April 2020. And I already mentioned what is the terms of reference, and this new terms of reference may be because the government is finding it difficult, because successively it has been found that especially in 2019-20 budget, the government talked about an increase in revenue by 25%, 25.6% increase in revenue, but actually it was only around 8% increase only had happened. I mean, it is not much has happened. So, and there is going to be a big shortfall in the revenue, and maybe because of that the government is talking about some changes for the defense and all right from the beginning. And politically also, internal security, please remember, after the whatever we are talking about, internal security is a state subject, and if the finance commission is allocating right from the beginning some fund. See, if they are allocating fund for defense, it is central subject, it does not make much difference. But internal security is a joint responsibility, the center and the states also. So, if you are allocating fund even before by the finance commission itself, what will happen is that it will actually erode the fiscal space of the, or rather it will erode the fiscal autonomy, okay, because now what it will affect the fiscal, because the states are not even consulted, and a matter which comes under the responsibility of the center and the states, and if the states are not given the space for that. So, according to many critics, this kind of a move will affect the fiscal autonomy of the state. I mean, that is a criticism. Let us not get into too much of that. That is the general criticism made by many experts when this was announced. But anyway, the 15th Finance Commission, two reports are there. One, the report for the financial year 2021 from 1st April 2021, and a second report or the final report maybe by October 2020 for 21 to 26. So, a second report is expected by October 2020, October 30 or 31st 2020, to be implemented from 1st April 2021. Now, one big change or a small change we can say, what has happened in the in this present the finance 15th Finance Commission recommendation is, compared to previous year, the devolution of fund to states, the devolution of fund to states have been reduced to 41%, a 1% reduction from 42% of the 41% of the, I mean for the states it's devolution 41%, last 14th Finance Commission it was 42%. So, from 42%, 1% lower than the percentage recommended by the 14th Finance Commission. Now, the criteria for devolution, okay, let us see that. Now, in a couple of things you should know compared to 14th Finance Commission and 15th Finance Commission, the criteria for devolution, what is that 100 rupee if it is coming, what is the criteria to be kept? And one big one is a income distance. Income distance was kept 50% weightage last time, now it is 45. I will come to income distance. Population of 1971 census, population 1971 census was the only consideration of 2014 Finance Commission. It gave a weightage of 17.5%, now 0. No weightage for 19. See, after 1971 census, I mean that is where we have fixed the Lok Sabha members and all to encourage to give weightage for those states who have reduced the population, where they aggressively implemented population control measures. So that is why 1971 census are always taken as the base. But now in this Finance Commission, the government has given up on that 71 census. It has been 2011. So the population of 2011 census. See, in 14th Finance Commission, they took 10% weightage. Now it has been increased to 15%. And area, it is 15%, no change. Area of the state, 15% weightage each. Then forest cover, 7.5%. But this time no weightage for forest cover, but there is something called forest and ecology. Now you see the difference. Now onwards, let me talk about the difference. Now forest and ecology. No weightage earlier, now we are talking about 10%. Then demographic performance, very important. Population is not the consideration now. Demographic performance, 15%, sorry, 12.5%, I made a mistake, 12.5%. And tax effort, 2.5%. There is nothing called demographic performance in 2014 census, 14th Finance Commission. Tax performance, 2.5%. So, please see where all the differences are there. Please note, 71 census is not counted in the 15th Finance Commission. Population of 2011 census, there is an increase to 15%. Area no change, forest cover not considered at all in 15th Finance Commission. Forest and ecology, a new consideration has been brought in, 10% weightage. Demographic performance, 12.5% weightage. Tax performance or tax effort, tax performance or tax effort, 2.5%. So there is a change or rather in the in the criteria. And what do you mean by income distance? Now that the first point was, you please see income distance, it was there in 14th Finance Commission also as well as in 15th Finance Commission. But what is the difference between what do you mean by income distance? That can be a question for us. Income distance is the distance of the state's income from the state with the highest income. So the gap between, now coming to income distance, very important, these things we should know. This is the gap between a particular state and the highest income state, the gap between a particular state and the highest income state. So, the income of the state has been computed as the average per capita of the last 15, 16 to 17, 18, that is okay. The states with lower per capita income would be given a higher share to maintain equity among the states. So, if the gap is more, we are we are giving some support. The income distance idea is the states with lower per capita income, please note the states with lower per capita income will be given a higher share, will be given a higher share to maintain equity among the states, so that these when laggards, the states which are not performing, they should also perform. So, they will be, and you just see income distance, and it is a 50% weightage was there last time, now 45% weightage is there this time. So, that is a big factor. Those states who are not performing well, they are given better support, so that they can also come at par, so that they need not be supported later on. So, this is to help in reducing or rather to ensure balanced regional development. This is for those states who are lagging behind, we will be supporting more. 45% of the weightage is for income distance. Another term is demographic performance. Demographic performance. Demographic performance is this is where the commission is required to use the population data of 2011, and the commission should look into the demographic performance is about to reward those states who have controlled the population. This is to reward those states who have controlled the population. And they will be looking into the total fertility rate, TFR. In demographic performance, TFR will be looked into, the total fertility rate, and total fertility rate is the number of children in a crude ratio or a crude terms. We can say TFR is the number of children per mother during the reproductive age. So, they will be using the reciprocal of the total fertility rate. So, basically I am not getting the calculation, and a lower fertility rate for a state means they will score high in this criteria. A lower TFR in a state will score high in this criteria. So, if a state has lower TFR, that state will score high. Very simple and straightforward thing. Okay. So, total fertility rate, that is called the demographic performance. Demographic performance. And then forest and ecology, a new thing which has been added. Earlier it was forest cover, now we are talking about forest and ecology. Forest and ecology. So, in forest and ecology, this criteria has been arrived at by calculating the share of the dense forest of each state. The share of dense forest of each state, the share of dense forest of each state in the aggregate dense forest of all the states. Now, the share of each state in the aggregate of all the dense forests in the country, in the aggregate of all dense forests in the country. So, not just the forest cover, we are not interested in the open forest and all, we are only talking about the dense. How much is the dense forest in a state? How much percentage of the dense forest is there in your state? If you are maintaining dense forest, you will be rewarded. Very simple. And if you have only a forest on paper, if you say so many area is devoted as forest and there is no tree, you are not going to get any benefit out. Earlier there was a benefit for forest cover. Now forest cover has been removed and now we are talking about dense forest cover. Forest and ecology, the criteria for calculation is the share of the dense forest of each state in the aggregate dense forest of all the states. I mean, nationally, how much is the dense forest and what is your percentage? If you have more percentage, you will get more, figures accordingly. So, forest and ecology, then tax effort. This criteria is used to reward states with higher tax collection efficiency. Tax effort is for those states, tax effort is for those states which are good in rewarding those states with higher tax collection efficiency. It has been computed as the ratio of the average per capita own tax revenue and the average per capita state GDP. Anyway, let us not get into that, but basically it is the efficiency of the tax collection. So, these are some of the provisions and that is how, and please remember, this is how the new formula has been arrived at compared to the 14th Finance Commission and the 15th Finance Commission, and in the process, another thing is they have reduced 1% of the divisible pool. Earlier 42% of the tax was were given to the states, now 41% will be given to the states, and now within the states how to distribute, these are the criteria. Income distance, population of 71 has been removed, then population of 2011 more weightage, area same, forest cover is removed, forest and ecology, demographic performance and tax effort. These are the criteria in which we are distributing. That is how NKSing has come to the conclusion, and the final report is yet to be there. That may be around by October 2020, and which will be implemented from 21 onward. For this year, it's already given 1% reduction in the divisible pool. So, that is what the 15th Finance Commission recommendation has been there. Now, let us move to another topic, and that is the global competitive index. Okay, a topic, global competitive index. So, in the global competitive index 2019, India slipped down by 10 places to 68th position in 2019 compared to 58th position in 2018, and Singapore topped the index and USA is number 2. One is Singapore, number 2 is US, and but India has performed in certain areas, indicators like renewable energy, airport connectivity, inflation, etc. We have performed a bit better, but otherwise it performed very poorly in terms of as 124th rank in terms of terrorism incidents, organized crime rate, etc. just 124, and India is also very relatively lowly positioned in a skill of the workforce, student teacher ratio in primary education, electricity access, electricity supply quality, then exposure to unsafe drinking water, etc. we performed very bad. The top 5 economies are Singapore, number 2 is US, number 3 is Hong Kong. So, they are very small countries. Naturally, when their size is less, things are much more easier. Hong Kong, Netherlands, Switzerland, number 4, Netherlands, and then Switzerland. And this global competitive index report is published by the World Economic Forum. Who publishes? These are the kind of questions which will come. It is published by World Economic Forum. And the report assesses the ability of the country to provide high levels of prosperity to their citizens. Ability to provide high levels of prosperity to the citizens. This in turn depends on how productively a country uses the available resources. How productively a country uses the available resources. How productively a country uses its available resources. And the Global Commodity Index ranks 140 countries. 98 indicators are there. 140 countries are ranked. 140 countries. 98 indicators. India is 68, you know, and indicators organized into 12 pillars. 98 indicators organized into 12 pillars. So, among 140, India is 68 is not a happy thing to talk about. The 12 pillars include infrastructure, institution, ICT, information technology, then macroeconomic stability, health, skills, market, labor, financial system. All these things are considered 12 broad areas, 98 indicators, 140 countries. India is 68. Not a happy thing to talk about. We need to go much beyond this. So, these are some of the topics, the 12 topics I discussed, and I would like to stop here today. And then after half an hour, so from say 4 o'clock, Manish will continue. So, he will have his areas. Then tomorrow, I have some more topics to talk about in economics. In tomorrow's discussion also, I will be talking first economics, then I may be moving to geography or anything, but I would like to complete some of the economics related topics because I believe these questions are more likely to be asked in the exam. And for the students, please remember 4th October is almost sure that the exam will be conducted. There is no chance of postponement and all. Please study with full seriousness. Please revise. Please participate in the test. Our students, ALS students, please remember our tests are still going on. The module tests are going on. Full tests are coming from next week. Please study. Please revise properly. And please take the test. If you run away from the test, if you are not taking the test, your chance of clearing preliminary is very less. See, we need around 100 marks out of 200 in the GS paper 1. It is not difficult at all. You can easily manage. Please revise whatever we taught and whatever current affairs we are talking. Your current affairs material is there. So many things we are already given. Monthly magazines have come to you. Downloadable version is there with you. Please use it. Please revise. Still time is there. We have enough time. We have more than 40 days time. Almost 45 days time is there. We can easily manage. There is no difficulty in getting through this exam, provided you revise. Gear up. 10 to 12 hours of hard work. Practice more questions. Revise. Revise the same material again and again. Whatever material you studied, whatever NCERT you studied, you please revise. Whatever material you made, whatever classes you attended, whatever notes you have, whatever things you read earlier, please revise and practice as maximum as possible. Every day at least 2 to 3 hours should be devoted for practicing multiple choice questions. That is the only way you can increase and improve. So, please don't give up. Tests are there. Every week we are giving you tests. Otherwise, questions and all, so many questions with you already. Whatever tests we are given earlier, please revise those questions. Please go through those questions. All NCERT tests, all module tests, whatever tests we have done in the class, thousands of questions are there with you. In the prelims course, so many questions are, previous year questions are there. Please go through all of them, practice, and your success will be assured if you practice. Revision and practice. There is no other mantra to get through this preliminary exam this time in 2020. Many people are disoriented. Now you be oriented and you be organized and you please get through. That is the only thing I would like to say. So, I will stop here and Manish will start from 4 o'clock. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow at 1:30 I will continue with the topics. Bye bye.